All right. Well, I have a story that, thank God, has nothing to do with this electoral cycle. So yes, we can get through with hopefully not killing each other. Okay. So this is kind of a follow-up on something we've been following happening in California, and I think there's been some significant developments because a California judge has officially rejected efforts to block a controversial ban on hemp products labeling requirements for requests for a temporary restraining order as a drastic remedy. This decision comes in the wake of new regulations pushed through by Gavin Newsom. Last week, the governor introduced an emergency measure mandating that all industrial hemp food, beverage, and dietary products intended for human consumption must contain no detectable THC or other intoxicating cannabinoids per serving. These regulations, which took effect earlier this month, aim primarily to restrict the sale of intoxicating hemp-derived products. However, critics argue they could severely undermine California's burgeoning hemp industry. In response to the ban, the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, along with plaintiffs such as Cheech and Chong Cannabis Co., sought a temporary restraining order, arguing that the regulations are unlawful and could lead to millions of dollars in losses for businesses across the state. Unfortunately for them, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Stephen Goodrich denied their request, emphasizing that it would unnecessarily halt enforcement before a comprehensive trial could take place. Judge Goodrich clarified that CBD products without THC remain permissible for sale, while those containing THC are restricted to licensed cannabis dispensaries. Jonathan Miller, general counsel for the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, expressed disappointment in the ruling, but stressed that the legal fight is far from over here. The judge looked at the same rules but came to the opposite conclusion. Governor Newsom has backed the ruling, citing significant public health concerns, particularly for children. The U.S. Hemp Roundtable pointed out the judge's decision on federal law. He ruled that the federal law did not block a ban that would disrupt interstate commerce in hemp products. They also noted the judge's stance on the evidence of harm, as he also ruled that there was no proof of irreparable harm, despite clear evidence of manufacturers and stores needing to shut down, and seniors and veterans losing access to non-intoxicating hemp products they've relied upon for their health and wellness. That is an opinion, as that is a quote. As this situation continues to unfold, many in the hemp industry are left wondering what the future holds, and we will definitely be following this one. I think it's very interesting that you guys want to operate as a hemp company. You're still allowed to sell your hemp products without traceable amounts of THC, but you're screaming and crying and saying that this is irreparable harm. Then that tells me that your intention was to sell an intoxicating product and skirt the regulations and skirt the cost of entry and skirt the things that other operators are doing in the same market. So I'm going to throw it back to you guys. I definitely want to hear what Dale and Omar have to say, and yeah.
This was a TRO. When you the temporary restraining order, when you go in for a TRO, showing you have irreparable harm, if you're going to lose money, that's not irreparable harm generally, because that's what you get in civil lawsuits. If you lose money, and they pay you back. Other kinds of irreparable harm have to be shown. And also you have to balance the equities. You got to not only show that you're going to win, but the equities are in your favor. And in this case, there were clearly products out there in the market that were being sold to people less than 21 years of age that contain THC or other psychoactive THC isomers and things like that. So I don't think that they had a great case to win in a TRO. These are simple minor hearings. You have few papers go in and you try to show that you should have this stopped or not stopped. And the judge decided, no, we're not going to stop this. We're going to let it play out a little bit. And you can still go back in and ask for injunctive relief and writs of mandates and things like that as you go forward. But I just don't know that this is going to have a lot of traction, because the government has the right to change the law. And, you may not like it, but it doesn't always mean it's actionable. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Omar?
Well, I think these emergency regulations, which were abruptly put into place because legislative attempts had failed, is not really what emergency regulations are intended for. And the briefing by the U.S. Hemp Roundtable was actually impressive, and they briefed the issues very well. Unfortunately for them, the judge rejected all of their arguments. And so now that the request for TRO has been soundly defeated, they're probably not going to get a lot of traction seeking a temporary injunction. I think that's what was supposed to be their next step. And I think the court in this case had offered, hey, let's skip the TRO. Why don't we just, have you argue the request for injunctive relief? And they're like, no, we're so sure we're going to win that we want to proceed ex parte with the TRO. And so I think they might have come on a little bit too strong, and what we're pushing too hard, and the judge just pushed back. If they had been a little bit more patient, maybe they would have obtained a different result. But as of now, the emergency regulations are in place, which means that local and state regulators are going to start shutting down all of these CBD stores. They've already started with anybody who has an ABC license or has other types of licensure. Those regulators are having them pull all the products from the shelves. So what we're going to see next is people who don't, or businesses that are not licensed through other means, that they don't have an ABC license, they don't have tobacco retailers license, they will also start seeing enforcement.
I'm curious to hear what Omar and Dale think about the fact that they're still allowed to sell hemp-derived and CBD products without THC in them. I think with this lawsuit, what do you guys think maybe their intent is? Because it seems like it's pretty obvious to me.
It's discrimination.
That's my opinion.
It's discrimination.
It's not just, calm down, Jason.
I think it's practically impossible to produce products that contain no detectable amount of THC, which is the standard in these new emergency hemp regs. So they can't just simply be federally legal under the Farm Bill with 0.3% or less THC. They have to have no detectable THC. And so that basically makes it impossible to sell all types of products, because from what I understand, it's extremely difficult to manufacture products with no detectable THC.
To make it tea-free, it's like a full reverse engineering process, right? So you would have to strip everything and
it's expensive. And people don't want to do it to scrub it out, so that's why they put it out with low THC. And we're really going to see California wrap their arms around this, good or bad, and see whether it's going to be exported anyplace else. And I hate to point fingers at people, but when you go out there to try and make a buck by going through a loophole, at some point the loophole gets closed, and people scream bloody murder. The loophole got closed. It's not fair to me. Okay, well, I'd say draft better legislation. And Omar's right. I think these emergency regs are being misused. That doesn't mean that the courts are going to stop the state from misusing them.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder, do you think this is going to lead to the next evolution of creative lab testing techniques?
That's a great the evolution of the cheating lab.
I don't see why it would not.
I don't think it would either.
They'll sell higher THC results. Why won't they sell lower?
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, that's absolutely what's happening in the THCA and all these other types of THC products that are sold. For example, here in Texas, we know for a fact. Like, obviously, I don't know which lab, but for sure, people are doing the same thing they do in the regulated market to inflate THC results, just the other way around, to make sure that it can be certified as hemp.
Easy way to get you to test negative is just use a Whizzinator.
And I think the fact that it's such a high, it's a high cost of entry to actually have the infrastructure that is needed to create a truly tea-free product. You might as well just go ahead and get a cannabis license and do what you were trying to do anyway. So I think it kind of violates the fact that they're trying to skirt what other operators are doing. And me, as someone who is paying egregious amounts of taxes, licensing fees every time I freaking turn around, renewals, new inspection fees, screw you guys. If you want to play with the big boys in the intoxicating cannabis sector, do it the right way.
But Jenny, COAs are so much cheaper than all of those things you just listed.
Yeah, they sure are.
But you still can get sued with a COA if it's false. You can get sued for false business practices. And there are plenty of hemp products without THC. Go buy a hemp rope. Go buy a candle. Buy a shirt.
Not according to Rico's story. There's not, Dale.
Well, there definitely are, Jason, and there are tea-free products all over the place. And we're only addressing hemp-derived products that's intended for human consumption. And the fact that they're making the argument that veterans and seniors are going to lose access to non-intoxicating products. No, they're not, because they can still get tea-free products. This is not about access. This is not about seniors and veterans. This is about monetary gain for companies that aren't willing to pay the extreme cost of entry into the regulated cannabis space. In my opinion.
Fair enough.
I agree with you.
All right, Rico.
There have been some pediatric patients who cannot afford regulated cannabis and have been trying to obtain these unlicensed hemp products that are now going to be fully illegal. And so there was people trying to like find workarounds to the system, and they did find some relief. That doesn't mean that, you know, we shouldn't regulate these products at all.
Yeah, but right. Omar, you know, in regards to that, it's all selective-based enforcement. So if a local municipality doesn't want to enforce it, there's no obligation for them to do it. The state's not actually doing the enforcement. They're encouraging the cities to give them a tool to be able to go after the smoke shops. That's what's happening.
Yes, except the state is doing enforcement for all ABC licensees, for example. That's a lot of retailers.
Looking at you, Total Wine and Spirits.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know they got some beverages stashed somewhere.
Literally. I mean, like, if you guys have an access problem, you have kids or seniors that really need help with products, hit me up. I'm pretty easy to find. I'll be happy to help you get some access to some safe hemp-derived or whatever products. Find somebody who can donate something to you.